For the 100,000 yuan scholarship, my mom transferred me to the most notorious delinquent class in the entire city. On my very first day, the school bully Ryder cornered me in an alley demanding protection money. I emptied my pockets, revealing only half a stale steam bun. No money. Will this do? He froze for a moment before exploding in rage. Who the hell do you think you're looking down on? The next second, everything went black as I fainted from hunger right in front of him. When I came to, Ryder tossed me a jianbingguozi and threatened, "From today on, you'll do all our homework, and we'll cover your meals. But if you dare fail any exams, or breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll beat you to a pulp." The delinquent girls forced milk on me. "Your skin's so terrible. Don't ruin our class's image." Some even organized patrols on their own to ensure I could safely take the college entrance exams. They were content to rot in the mud themselves, yet clumsily lifted me up to reach for the stars. The night before the exams, Ryder and his crew beat up my harassing parents. "Heard you were trying to disturb our future top scorer's studies?" He turned back and raised an eyebrow at me, grinning with both boldness and tenderness. "Hey, studious one, go ace Tsinghua University for them, just for fun." In the first mock exam of senior year, I ranked first in the city, but my mother beat me because my younger brother was upset, believing I had stolen the nutrients meant for him in the womb, which caused his poor grades. To make it up to my brother, she transferred me from the metropolitan magnet high to the worst school in the city, which promised her a 100,000 yuan bonus. With that 100,000, she immediately enrolled my brother in an elite private school. My brother was thrilled, taunting me that all I knew was studying uselessly, while he, at the elite school, would network with the rich kids, the real deal, and maybe I'd end up working for him someday. I resisted transferring, but it only earned me another beating, being locked up and punished with no food. Starving and desperate, I finally agreed to the transfer. At that moment, I had only one thought. I couldn't die there, even if it was the worst school. At least I could still study there. Before I went, my brother had already filled me in on how outrageous the class I was joining was. It's full of troublemakers who kill without batting an eye. Even if you want to fight back, it's useless. They dare to be such scoundrels precisely because they have powerful backers and money. Go rot there then. Let's see who would still dare to compare you to me. I ignored him, but swore to myself that I must live better than this good. For nothing, the new classroom was at the very end of the corridor, with even the door panel crooked. As I approached, I could hear the noise inside was loud enough to lift the roof. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The room instantly fell silent, all eyes pinned on me like I was some kind of monster. Well, it made sense. My faded metropolitan magnet high uniform really stood out here. I didn't say a word, keeping my head down as I looked for an empty seat. Before I could sit down, someone grabbed me by the back of my collar. It was Ryder Chun. I'd heard his name before, the school's troublemaker leader. He backed me into a corner, his shadow looming over me. New here? He eyed me through narrowed eyes, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. Know the rules here? You've got to pay the protection fee. I didn't speak, silently turning out all my pockets. Empty, finally. I only found a small piece of cold steamed bun in my pants pocket that I'd taken from the kitchen stove in the morning, hard as a rock. I placed it on his open palm. This is all I have. He stared at the pitiful thing in his hand, frozen for several seconds, his expression shifting from shock to furious indignation, as if he'd been made a fool of. Fuck, he flung his hand away violently, scattering crumbs everywhere. Who the hell do you think you're looking down on? His roar was so loud it made my ears ring, but I hadn't had a proper meal in 2 days. And from that sip of cold water in the morning until now, my stomach was burning with hunger. His shout made my vision suddenly go black. My legs gave way, and I pitched forward. My last bit of consciousness registered my head, hitting something. It didn't hurt much, but I was completely drained of strength. When I woke up again, I found myself lying on a bed in the school infirmary. The smell of disinfectant was mixed with a particularly fragrant aroma of scallions and sauce. Turning my head, I saw Ryder Chin standing by the bed with a sour expression, shoving a steaming Chinese crepe into my hands. Here, it's awful. Lucky you. His eyes darted away as he spoke stiffly. Listen, from today on, you're in charge of all our homework. As for your meals, TSK, we're stuck with it. We'll cover them. He paused, leaned in closer, and put on a fierce face, lowering his voice. But if you dare mess up the exams or breathe a word to anyone. He shook his fist. I'll beat you to death. Got it? With that, he slammed a stack of test papers onto the table beside me in annoyance. Picking them up, my heart skipped a beat. It was the city-wide mock exam papers, complete with detailed standard answers and explanations. I had been worried that after transferring schools, I'd never see these again or figure out how to solve the questions I got wrong, especially since I heard the teachers here weren't very involved. Thank you. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. Ryder Chun immediately bristled like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Thanks my ass. Just write it properly. If you don't finish, you're not allowed to go home for dinner. He commanded fiercely, but the tips of his ears seemed slightly red. Just then, a chubby boy who looked somewhat simple-minded came huffing and puffing in, carrying a huge stack of test papers, sweat beading on his forehead. Bro, Ryder, are these okay? I just stole. No, borrowed them from the principal's office. His voice was loud and brimming with excitement of seeking praise. Ryder was startled by him and ruffled his hair irritably. Keep it down, chubby. You want the whole school to know. He took the pile of what looked like past exam papers and practice tests, glanced at them, then disdainfully shoved the whole lot at me with an extremely unnatural expression, forcing a tough guy attitude. Well, you can study these scraps of paper too. Hurry up. Stop dawdling. Holding the stack of papers and still tasting the Chinese crepe in my mouth, I returned to my new classroom. The classroom was as noisy as a marketplace. By the window, several girls were gathered around campus belle Sabrina Sue, sticking shiny gems on her nails, while two boys nearby were gaming on their phones, cursing under their breath. I had just found an empty spot in the corner to put down my test papers when someone shoved my shoulder hard. Looking up, I saw it was the two flashily dressed followers who always hung around Sabrina. Well, if it isn't the top student who fainted from fright at Wild Brother this morning. A girl with green, streaked hair scanned me up and down with a sarcastic tone, her voice deliberately high-pitched. The other, a short-haired girl, poked my arm with her elaborately manicured finger and clicked her tongue disdainfully. Oh my God, you're as skinny as a bean sprout. One gust of wind would knock you over, wouldn't it? Even my poodle has more meat on its bones than you. Terrified, I hunched my shoulders, not daring to breathe loudly, trembling uncontrollably. Sabrina sat there, leisurely blowing on her freshly done nails, then shot a meaningful glance to the side. The green-haired girl immediately pulled out a box of what looked like premium milk from under the desk, popped a straw in it with a snap, practically shoved it against my lips, and snarled, "Drink." Someone nearby immediately raised their phone and started recording. The lens almost pressed against my face. The class monitor, Richie Chien, a boy decked out in head, two toe logos, grinned as he leaned in, flashed a peace sign at the camera, and then video, called his dad right then and there. As soon as the call connected, he boasted loudly, "Dad, look, that imported organic milk you wanted to promote. I found someone to try it, a genuine candidate for the top 2 universities, #1 in the city. See how much she's enjoying it." After saying this, he abruptly turned the camera toward me, threatening me with his eyes. With the straw still in my mouth, I was forced to take a big gulp, nearly choking, and could only mumble an indistinct followed by a tiny milk hiccup. Richie Chien was overjoyed. "Here, that, Dad," she said, "it's good. Hurry up and send me the money. I worked so hard for this. You have no idea how much convincing it took to get her to agree. Oh, and while you're at it, why not cover her milk supply for the whole year? If she gets into Tsinghua University, this will officially be Tsinghua milk." Soon after, His dad transferred him 100,000 yuan, and a month's supply of milk was promptly delivered. Richie, Chen raised an eyebrow at me. You have to drink this milk every day, 1 bottle each day, or else we'll bully you. Finally, the school bell, Sabrina Sue, condescended to speak. She glanced at me and said coolly, you really need to nourish yourself. Your sallow complexion is dragging down our class's average looks. Not long after joining class 2, grade 12, I was being well fed and had become plump and fair-skinned. Richie Chen was always bringing me all sorts of snacks to test. One day it was free-range wild chicken. The next it was newly released pork floss pastries. Stella song, if you say it's delicious, I'll have my dad start production right away. We'll even use the slogan, recommended by top 2 universities' top students. He even gave names to all the things I'd eaten. Tsinghua chicken, Tsinghua egg, Tsinghua milk. He kept a little notebook specifically recording what I ate before which exam went well, then earnestly analyzed with his dad. Dad, look, after drinking this milk, I scored 145 in math. After eating that chocolate, my English essay only lost 1 point. This investment is totally worth it. In the following days, I gradually figured out the backgrounds of everyone in the class. Ryder Chin was raised by his grandmother, who collected scrap for a living. As a child, he often got bullied for having no parents, and his tough fists were forged out of necessity. That's why he couldn't stand seeing people bully others with their power, especially someone like me who got pushed to the brink without even causing trouble. In his own words, my fists may be tough, but I never hit someone who's already down. Someone like me, just a weakling who only knew how to bury my head in books, inexplicably became one of those he took under his wing. No one was allowed to touch. Once, a few boys from the next class cornered me at the restroom entrance, sneering, "Even good students come to places like this to use the bathroom? Heard you're pretty arrogant?" He even tried to snatch the phone from my hand, the one Sabrina Sue had just replaced with a newer model. Before I could react, a thunderous roar erupted behind me. Fuck, messing with someone from our class? Ryder Chin appeared out of nowhere, eyes blazing red. Without a word, he grabbed an unused wooden chair from against the wall and charged forward, looking ready to swing it at them for real. Jealous, huh? Can't stand that our class has a top 2 universities candidate? Let me show you what's what today. Those guys were typical bullies who only picked on the weak. They'd never faced such ferocity. They scrambled away in panic. Ryder threw down the chair, breathing heavily, and glared at me. What are you standing around for? Go back and study. Stop wandering around causing trouble. Sharing a dorm with Sabrina Sue, I gradually realized she was the real deal. A genuine white, rich, beautiful. Her family's wealth was staggering. She attended this rundown school purely for peace and quiet, planning to fly abroad for polish right after high school. No need to grind herself to death competing at a top-tier school. Teachers mostly left her to her own devices, and she was perfectly content with that freedom. She had a real diva's temper and a long list of rules, the first of which was, do not disturb her beauty sleep. Stella song, it's 10 o'clock, with an outrageously expensive face mask on. Her voice was muffled yet firm. Lights out, time for bed. That cheap desk lamp of yours is hurting my eyes. I had usually just opened my exercise book, so I could only plead softly. Sabrina, just another half hour. Half an hour? She sat up abruptly, the mask wrinkling. Do you know how much this face costs? If you age me with that light, who's going to pay for it? Lights out. The light went off, and I sighed quietly in the darkness. But the next day, I found a new desk lamp with eye protection on my small table. My parents hadn't given me a single cent for living expenses, so many things were just tossed to me by Sabrina Sue. What cheap perfume is in this shampoo? It's suffocating me. Finish it and throw it out. These chips are disgusting. You can have them. I wore this once and didn't like it. It's taking up space, so you can use it as pajamas. In truth, the tags were still on, and the fabric was incredibly soft. I have a cold constitution, And the first day of my period always leaves me in excruciating pain. That time, it hit me without warning in the dorm. I curled up on my bed, my lower abdomen feeling like a meat grinder was churning inside. Cold sweat instantly soaked through my clothes, and my teeth chattered uncontrollably. Sabrina Sue had just finished her elaborate skincare routine and frowned at the sight. "What's wrong with you? You're as pale as a ghost." I was in so much pain I could barely speak coherently. "Stomach hurts." She clicked her tongue, her face showing undisguised annoyance. Such a hassle. But the next second, she turned around and started rummaging through her things. First, she pulled out a cartoon hot water bottle filled with hot water and shoved it somewhat roughly into my arms. "Hold this. What a pain. Make sure to return it after you're done. And don't get it dirty." Then she brewed a cup of some unknown brand of brown sugar ginger tea, handing it over steaming hot, her tone still sharp. "Drink it. Next time, don't put on this pathetic act in front of me. It's bad for our dorm's feng shui." The pain blurred my consciousness, but I could feel a warmth slowly spreading from the soles of my feet, easing the excruciating cramps. The fine beads of cold sweat on my forehead were wiped away with soft tissues, though not very gently. She scolded me nonstop, yet her actions were meticulous, albeit clumsy. In that moment, within this cold and expensive dorm room, I, abandoned by my own mother as a bargaining chip, was being cautiously warmed by a seemingly spoiled and willful young lady in the most awkward way possible. On the day the second mock exam results were released, my name once again topped the city rankings. Somehow, the news found its way back home. My mother and brother were furious. They stormed into the school that afternoon, faces livid, and without a word tried to drag me away to transfer schools. "This time, you have no say." "No." 3 high school promised 200,000 yuan immediately if you go there. My mother gripped my arm tightly, her nails digging into my flesh, her voice shrill and sharp. "Your brother needs the money over there. Can't you, as his sister, think about him for once?" It was only from her hysterical cursing that I pieced together the truth. My brother couldn't fit in at all in that elite school full of rich kids. He was poor and cowardly, and most importantly, having been waited on hand and foot at home. He tried to boss everyone around at school, but everyone there was either wealthy or influential. Nobody would indulge him, and when it came to comparing power and status, he couldn't match anyone. He became a complete laughingstock. To maintain appearances and buy some decent things to salvage his dignity, he desperately needed a large sum of money, and I became the ready-made, easily liquidated asset in their eyes. My father had also come, his face dark, as he blocked the classroom doorway, confronting the homeroom teacher who had rushed over upon hearing the news. "Teacher, we must transfer this child today, whether you approve the paperwork or not. It's happening." Just as the situation was at a stalemate, class president Richie Chen was the first to squeeze in, breathless, bringing the dean of students with him. Richie Chen pulled out his phone and displayed a transfer interface, deliberately raising his voice to intimidate the situation. "You can't do this. The school has approved a 100,000 yuan scholarship for Stella Song. She's now a key student under our school's cultivation program. The contract is signed. If she leaves now, she'll have to pay 500,000 yuan in breach penalties." 500,000? My father's eyes instantly turned red, like a beast thoroughly provoked. He suddenly turned and glared at me, all his rage and humiliation seemingly finding their only outlet. Without warning, he slapped me hard across the face. A sharp crack echoed through the air. My vision went black. My ears rang with a buzzing noise, and warm liquid immediately gushed from my nostrils, dripping down onto the front of my school uniform, spreading into a glaring red stain. "Ah!" Several girls screamed in shock around us. "Uncle, how could you hit someone? Stella, are you okay?" Several female classmates, their faces pale with fright, immediately rushed over with red, rimmed eyes, flustered as they surrounded me. Someone pulled out tissues, frantically trying to help stop the bleeding. their voices trembling with tears. The homeroom teacher was also completely furious, stepping forward to try to separate my father. Mr. Song, please calm down. This is a school. How can you hit a child? If this continues, I'll call the police. But my father was like a powder keg that had been completely ignited. He didn't care about my miserable state at all, and instead grew even more enraged because my classmates were protecting me. He violently shoved aside a girl blocking his way, grabbed my arm again with a fierce grip, yanking me toward him, while raising his other hand high, snarling with a twisted face. Call the police? Go ahead. I'd like to see which cop dares interfere with a father disciplining his own daughter. She's my flesh and blood. I can hit her if I want, scold her if I want. It's only natural. He glared at the teacher and Richie Chen, who was trying to stop him, with a crazed look in his eyes. I'm taking her home today. Who dares to stop me? If she has any accidents on the way home or home, what good will calling the police do? Huh? Does your school want a corpse? Or do you want that 500,000? He almost hysterically repeated this threat, spittle nearly spraying onto the teacher's face. Not letting us leave? Then wait to collect a body. The words were too vicious and blatant, even making some of the delinquent students who had been watching frown, their eyes revealing disgust. The teachers trembled with anger, yet were temporarily cowed by his shameless, reckless attitude and the pretext of family matters, hesitant to act for fear of collateral damage. Just as my dad forcefully dragged me toward the stairwell again, the situation nearly spiraling out of control. Fuck, say that again about whose corpse you want. A furious roar erupted like thunder from the end of the corridor. Everyone turned their heads abruptly. They saw Ryder Chun, like a thoroughly provoked leopard, his eyes burning with terrifying fire, charging over step by step. Behind him, a dark mass of no fewer than 100 people followed, all male, each brandishing gleaming steel pipes. The heavy footsteps and scraping sound of metal dragging on the ground converged into a terrifying torrent that instantly clogged the entire corridor. The scene was so menacing it seemed blood would be spilled at any moment. My father, who had been arrogantly threatening to collect a corpse just moments before, suddenly had his pupils contract sharply. The ferocity on his face was instantly replaced by terror, and all color drained from his skin. His grip on my hand loosened as if burned, and he instinctively shoved me backward while staggering back 2 steps himself, his lips beginning to tremble uncontrollably. Ryder Chin closed the distance between them in a few strides, standing almost nose to nose with him. His gaze was murderously dark as he repeated, "Word by word, I asked you, who exactly were you going to collect the body of?" The cold glint of the steel pipes reflected on my father's pallid face. His Adam's apple bobbed violently, and sweat instantly soaked through the clothes on his back. He looked at the menacing Ryder Chin before him, then at the silent yet imposing group of brothers behind him, and all his earlier bravado vanished without a trace. Having been young himself once, he knew how recklessly teenagers like these could fight. "You, what do you want? This is a school. I'm her father." He tried to assert his authority, but his voice trembled uncontrollably. "All bark and no bite. Father?" Ryder Chin sneered, his voice icy cold. "To me, you look more like a damn trafficker." He took another step forward, the steel pipe almost poking my father's chest. My father completely lost his nerve. He shoved me away violently, sputtering empty threats like, "You just wait. And don't you dare come home," before scrambling away with my mother and brother in tow. They pushed through the crowd in disarray, stumbling as they fled without even looking back. The moment they disappeared around the stairwell, that terrifying aura instantly collapsed. The principal rushed out from some corner, fuming with rage, grabbing Ryder Chin by the ear, his voice cracking. "Ryder Chin, you little rascal, are you trying to turn the world upside down? Where did these steel pipes come from? What were you thinking?" "Ouch, that hurts. Principal, ease up, please, ease up." Ryder Chin instantly transformed from a cold-faced intimidator back into a grimacing young troublemaker, standing on tiptoe to beg for mercy. They're fake, all props, hollow aluminum pipes borrowed from the film studio, just painted over to scare people. If you don't believe me, feel how light they are. The 100 or so comrades behind him burst into laughter upon seeing this, dropping their steel pipes with a clatter that indeed lacked any weighty sound, then scattered in all directions faster than rabbits. Just as the farce concluded, a rapid clicking of high heels echoed from the other end of the corridor, accompanied by a tearful cry, "Star, Chi-Shing." It was Sabrina Sue. She had clearly rushed here directly from some formal occasion, still wearing an exquisite silver cocktail dress, with her makeup done, but her hair was somewhat disheveled. She had one high-heeled shoe on, while the other was missing, running barefoot and out of breath. Her eyes rimmed red. The moment she saw my swollen cheek and the bloodstains on my uniform, tears instantly streamed down her face. She rushed over, wanting to touch my face, but afraid to hurt me, her voice trembling violently. "Which bastard did this? Huh? Who gave them the right to lay hands on you?" I usually can't even bear to speak harshly to her. Crying as she went, she pulled items from her small, expensive clutch, wet wipes, band-aids, even a small bottle of serum, frantically trying to apply them to my face while sobbing. "What if you're scarred? Will it leave a mark? Why won't this damn tissue open? Wah." Seeing her in such a disheveled and distressed state, my nose tingled with emotion, and I nearly couldn't hold back my tears, whispering softly, "Sabrina, I'm fine, but your shoes." Only then did she look down at her feet, pausing for a moment before growing even angrier through her sobs. "My Jimmy Choos, over 5,000 yuan. Forget them if they're lost. Never mind that. Don't move. Let me wipe you clean." As she wiped, she kept muttering angrily, tears falling drop by drop, torn between worrying about me and mourning her shoes. After that, I hardly ever left the school, terrified of being targeted by that family again. They were probably thoroughly frightened by Ryder Chen's display that day and didn't dare cause trouble at the school again. Later, I heard Sabrina Sue mention casually that she'd asked a few influential friends at her brother's elite school to look after my brother. She didn't go into details about how exactly they looked after him, but within a month, my brother showed up bruised, limping, and quietly withdrew from school on his own, never again mentioning his dream of becoming a rich second-generation heir. My mom called a few times to cry and complain, but Sabrina Sue shut her down completely with, "Keep bothering us, and I'll make sure your son's other leg matches." The last bit of unease in my heart faded, allowing me to focus even more on my studies. In several major exams in a row, I firmly held the top spot in the entire city. Such results wouldn't have been unusual at a former metropolitan magnet high, but in our school, it became nothing short of a legend. The teachers looked at me as if I were a rare treasure, afraid I might get the slightest scratch. The Chinese teacher was a kindly old man nearing retirement, with an endlessly gentle temper. Every time he passed by our class, holding his polished thermos with the red, outstanding teacher print, he'd peek in, spot me accurately, and wave, "Chi-Shing, come here. You're straining your brain. Take a few sips to replenish your energy." Without another word, he'd pour me half a cup of warm, plump goji berry tea, and wouldn't leave until he saw me drink it. Satisfied, the math teacher, on the other hand, treated me like his prized protege. He dug out from some box a stack of yellowed, dog-eared math competition problem sets, covered in dense, handwritten calculations in pen. When no one was looking, he mysteriously slipped them into my hand, adjusted his glasses, and whispered in a low voice, "Ahem, since you're free anyway, just take a look. Don't worry if you don't understand." His cautious demeanor made it clear he was entrusting me with a treasure he had cherished for years. As the countdown to the college entrance exam dwindled day by day, the atmosphere in the entire school began to shift. An unprecedented tension and anticipation hung in the air. The most noticeable change was in Richie Qian. He no longer dozed off and drooled in class. instead forcing himself to stay awake and listen intently. Even though he barely understood most of it, he confided in me privately. Wild bro said my snoring is too loud and might disturb your thinking. If I fall asleep, he'll beat me up after class. After saying this, he rubbed his chubby belly with a pitiful expression. Even the usual schoolyard fights and brawls had almost completely disappeared. On the rare occasions when minor conflicts arose, and both sides were just rolling up their sleeves, Ryder Chin would somehow wander over from nowhere. Without saying a word, he'd lean against the wall with his arms crossed, casting cold glances around. Those guys would immediately back down, ceasing all hostilities. More effective than when the school principal showed up. Sabrina Sue was even more dramatic. When the weather turned muggy in early June, she complained that the old classroom air conditioners had poor cooling and were too noisy, disturbing my studies. Without another word, she donated a batch of brand new, ultra, quiet central air conditioning units to every classroom and dormitory on campus in her family company's name. The school principal didn't even get a chance to politely refuse before the installation workers were already in position. From then on, no matter where I went on campus, I could enjoy consistently cool temperatures. Her exact words as the young miss were, "Nobody should suffer from the heat, especially not our potential top scholar." It seemed that without anyone noticing, my college entrance exams were no longer just my personal affair, but had become the unspoken shared goal of the entire school. From top to bottom, even the principal, during the school-wide assembly, completely gave up on pretense. Well, with the college entrance exams approaching, some students, "I've basically given up on you anyway. Just behave yourselves and don't cause trouble. That's your contribution to the school." The audience erupted in knowing laughter. Then the principal's tone shifted dramatically, his voice rising an octave as he stared intently in our class's direction. "But, Stella Song from Class 2, Grade 12, you must get into Tsinghua University for me. Hear that? The whole school is counting on you to win us this honor. Whatever you need, the school will find a way to get it for you, as long as you can get in." The auditorium instantly exploded with thunderous applause and whistles. Everyone was laughing, their eyes shining brightly as they looked at me. I blushed fiercely at this blunt and crude expectation, yet my heart felt like it had been filled with a small sun, scorching hot and radiant. The night before the college entrance exams, Sabrina Sue waved her hand grandly and booked the entire top-floor restaurant of her family's 5-star hotel for our class graduation banquet. The atmosphere at the table was so lively it could have lifted the roof. Everyone was joking and teasing each other, and Richie Chien pointed at me. "Stella, look at you now. You finally have some meat on your face. When you first arrived, a gust of wind could have knocked you over." Someone nearby chimed in. "That's all thanks to Boss Chien's Tsinghua eggs and Tsinghua chicken feeding you so well." Richie Chien proudly patted his chest. "Of course, when Stella goes to university, my family will continue to sponsor her. I guarantee she'll have proper nutrition even through her PhD." Looking at the smiling faces around me, my eyes grew warm. This past year, I hadn't worried at all about food, drink, or clothing. I remembered that day before transferring schools. When my parents locked me in the room, I had thought I would quietly starve to death in that little dark room. Comparing that to now, I took a deep breath, stood up, and bowed deeply to everyone. "Thank you all, really, thank you. In the future, I will definitely." Sabrina Sue immediately clicked her tongue in disdain, cutting me off as she tapped my bowl with her chopsticks. All right, who keeps a cat or dog expecting gratitude? Just focus on taking care of yourself so you don't embarrass us by fainting from hunger again." Her tone was awkward, but her eyes sparkled. The lively atmosphere lasted late into the night. As I headed to the restroom and turned the corner, a sudden sharp pain struck the back of my head, plunging my vision into instant darkness. I knew nothing more. In my dazed state, I heard my father's suppressed yet excited voice. "Quick, throw her in the car. Don't let anyone see." My mother's voice carried a hint of panic. "Be gentle. Don't actually hurt her," the Zhao family said, "as long as she doesn't show up at the exam tomorrow." What's there to fear? Knocked out is easier. 50,000, enough to buy our son an apartment in the city. I was roughly thrown into a beat-up van, jolting for what felt like an eternity. When I came to, a strong, foul stench choked me, making me cough. I found myself in a dim and filthy pigsty, my hands and feet bound with rough ropes, my body covered in straw and mud. Dad, Mom, let me out. I need to take the exam. I struggled desperately and shouted, my voice echoing through the empty, dilapidated room. My father's face appeared at the wooden barred door, twisted with greed. Stop yelling. The Zhao family has made it clear, if you skip the exam tomorrow so their son can take first place, they'll give us 500,000. The Zhao family? I knew them. A local nouveau riche family whose son had always been stuck in second place, constantly overshadowed by me. What's 500,000? I blurted out in desperation. If I get into Tsinghua University, the scholarships and social support alone would exceed that amount. I could give you even more then. Bah, my father spat viciously. Stop painting pretty pictures. Once you fly away, would you even care about us? Cold, hard cash right now is what matters. The Zhao family said if you take the exam next year instead, they'll pay again. Don't worry, I'll make sure you repeat at No. 3 high school next year. They've promised another 500,000 too. His face was a mask of utter madness and calculation, devoid of even a shred of parental conscience. I was utterly hopeless, my entire body cold, without even the strength to struggle. Tears mixed with the filth of the pigsty, silently streaming down, so in their eyes. I was never a daughter, just an object that could be repeatedly sold and exploited for value. Meanwhile, chaos had erupted at the hotel. Sabrina Sue waited and waited, but I didn't return, so she sent someone to check the restroom. It was empty. Her heart sank instantly, and she immediately called Ryder Chen, her voice trembling. Ryder, Stella is missing. Silence fell on Ryder's end. Then the sound of something being smashed and his suppressed roar came through the phone. Fuck. Within 10 minutes, it felt like a bomb had been dropped on the city's underworld. Ryder called every contact he had, local gangs, neighboring factions. Virtually every vehicle on the streets got the message. Find a girl named Stella Song, a high school senior who just disappeared from the Platinum Hotel. Heavy reward for finding her. Severe consequences for any delays. Sabrina Sue wasn't idle either. With one phone call, she mobilized her family hotel's fleet of vehicles. Over a dozen supercars and SUVs roared as they assembled below the hotel, wearing the flat shoes she had changed into. Her eyes red, she commanded, with the hotel as the center. Search all possible routes thoroughly. Check the surveillance. Question every shop along the way. She glanced at her wristwatch, her voice carrying an unquestionable order. It's 8 o'clock now. By 9:30, I must see her safe and sound. By 10:00, she must be in bed with me for her beauty sleep. Massive resources and manpower were mobilized, with terrifying efficiency. Soon, word came from a convenience store owner at an intersection who claimed to have seen a beat-up van dragging a sack toward the deserted village outside the city. Almost simultaneously, one of Ryder Chen's men reported a similar clue. The direction was instantly pinpointed, in a dilapidated farmhouse. The brother with a crippled leg wore a sinister grin. Why should I have lost a leg while you're still living well? He raised the wooden club high, about to bring it down upon my defenseless self. Bang! The courtyard gate, along with its broken wooden barrier, was violently kicked open from outside, splinters of wood flying everywhere. The next second, countless blinding beams of car headlights shot into the small courtyard like sharp swords, illuminating the entire pigsty as bright as daylight. The roar of engines and screeching brakes instantly surrounded this deathly silent, desolate village. My father and mother were terrified out of their wits by this sudden turn of events. They spun around to see a dark mass of people flooding into the tiny courtyard like a tidal wave. Hundreds of men carrying various weapons, with hostile looks in their eyes, instantly surrounded them and my brother, who was still holding up the stick. Ryder Chen emerged from the crowd, his face as dark as thunder. His eyes immediately fell on me, tied up in the pigsty, face streaked with tears and dirt, and the fury in his gaze was almost palpable. He strode over to my father in just a few steps, and without waiting for any reaction from him, swung his arm back. Slap, slap, two sharp, resounding slaps sent my father spinning in place before he stumbled and fell to the ground. His pants instantly soaked through as the stench of urine, mixed with the foul odor of the pigpen, filled the air. Ryder Chin didn't even glance at his pathetic state, bending down to gently untie the ropes binding me, carefully helping me up, and using his sleeve to hastily yet meticulously wipe the filth from my face. Only then did he turn back to look at my parents trembling like leaves on the ground, a cold and arrogant curve forming at the corner of his mouth. "I heard you wanted to disturb our top scholar candidate studies." He glanced back at me with a raised eyebrow, his eyes, usually full of hostility, now reflecting the car's headlights, revealing a strangely gentle yet bold expression. "Hey, star student, go get into Tsinghua University for fun." 9:50 p.m. I was quickly and professionally cleaned up by Sabrina Sue's female assistant and medical staff, changed into comfortable clean pajamas, with the minor scratches on my face and rope marks on my hands carefully disinfected and bandaged. I lay on the incredibly soft large bed in Sabrina Sue's hotel suite, still carrying the fresh scent after bathing, as if the despair and filth from the pigsty earlier were just a nightmare. At exactly 10 o'clock, the room lights went out on schedule. Sabrina Sue lay beside me, tucking in my blanket corners, her voice carrying an undeniable command, yet gentle as a feather. "All right, close your eyes. Don't you dare wake up even if the sky falls. Do well on tomorrow's exam and bring back first place for me." In the darkness, I clutched the blanket tightly, tears silently soaking the pillow, but this time, it was no longer despair. Early the next morning, as I just groggily opened my eyes, I heard suppressed commotion coming from downstairs. Sabrina Sue was carefully applying mascara in front of her makeup mirror, glanced at me lazily, and pouted. "Well, your escort squad is here." Puzzled, I walked to the window and looked down, instantly freezing in place. The area below the hotel was densely packed with people, almost all familiar faces, some from our class, and other notorious troublemakers from different grades. Ryder Chin stood at the forefront, arms crossed, with an unlit cigarette dangling from his mouth, looking up impatiently. As soon as I peeked out, a wave of hushed cheers and whistles erupted from below. I hurried downstairs, took in the massive gathering, and couldn't decide whether to laugh or cry. You didn't have to do this. Everyone has college entrance exams today." Ryder Chin took the cigarette from his mouth, tucked it behind his ear, and snorted. "Exams? You're counting on them?" A group of boys behind him burst into laughter. Sabrina Sue followed leisurely in her high heels, adding matter of factly, "When one of us brings honor, the whole school shares the glory. They just sleep through the exam anyway. Might as well do something useful." After speaking, she continued checking her makeup in her compact mirror, looking at these carefree classmates who had gotten up early just to serve as my bodyguards. I felt a lump forming in my throat. The path to the exam venue wasn't far at all. The hotel was right across from the school, a straight line distance of barely 200 meters. But this was probably the most ceremonious 200 meters I would ever walk in my life. Ryder Chin walked beside me at the front, hands in his pockets, mentioning casually, "Oh, by the way, after you left last night, your worthless brother had another unfortunate fall." He paused, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Quite a coincidence. He broke his other leg too. As for your parents, who knows who they offended, but they stirred up public outrage. When they were found, they were barely recognizable. They're all in the hospital now. Don't worry, it's quiet now. No one can bother you anymore." My heart sank as I suddenly understood what had happened. My mouth opened, but I didn't know what to say. So, I changed the subject, looking at the group around me, who obviously weren't here to take the exam either. "Then you really didn't need to come see me off, especially for just 200 meters?" Ryder Chin glanced sideways at me, raising his hand as if to knock on my head. "What's this? Has our top scholar candidate grown wings and started meddling in your big brother writer's business?" Sabrina Sue added coolly from behind. "Exactly. And after getting beaten up like that yesterday, is your brain still working properly? You don't have to fight for first place. Just take the exam normally." Her tone was still as Sundra as ever. Ryder also unusually softened his tone. "At worst, we'll study with you for another year next year. No one would dare touch you anyway. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." Our group stopped outside the security line of the examination venue. All the noise seemed to instantly fade away from me. I turned around to face these young men and women who had accompanied me through my darkest times, protecting me in their own clumsy ways. The sunlight was a bit blinding. Once again, I bowed deeply, deeply to them. 1,000 words choked in my throat, ultimately transforming into silent gratitude. After rising, I didn't look back, clutching the transparent pencil case tightly in my hand, straightening my spine as I strode confidently through the examination hall's entrance. Behind me came Ryder Chen's sharp whistle, Sabrina Sue's encouraging cheers laced with laughter, and that chaotic yet intensely enthusiastic cheering from the group. On score, checking day, the weather was unbearably stuffy, as if holding back a heavy downpour. Our group crowded into the living room of Sabrina Sue's hotel suite, the air conditioning running full blast. Yet the tension in the air remained undiminished. Richie Chen hugged a bucket of potato chips, crunching loudly as he tried to lighten the mood. "Star, relax. If you don't get into Tsinghua University, just come work at my family's company. My dad would be thrilled. We'll pay you a high salary, definitely more than any scholarship." Sabrina Sue inspected her freshly done manicure on her phone screen, not looking up as she said in a lazy tone, "Exactly. Failing would be perfect. You can carry my bags, saving me from hiring someone else. Anyway, I've got more money than I can spend. Supporting you would be more than enough." Ryder Chen remained silent, leaning back on the sofa with one leg bent, his fingers unconsciously tapping on his knee, his gaze occasionally drifting toward the laptop connected to the query website on the coffee table. The other classmates chimed in with banter and noisy chatter, trying to drown out the tense atmosphere. I knew they were all trying to help me relax in their own ways. But when I took a deep breath and typed the long exam admission number with slightly trembling fingers on the cold computer, the entire living room fell into complete silence. All the earlier noise seemed to have been muted. I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning and the thumping of my own heart against my chest. Richie Chen forgot to put the potato chip in his mouth. Sabrina Sue put down her phone. Ryder Chen stopped tapping his knee. Everyone held their breath, eyes fixed intently on the screen. The mouse clicked to query. The page refreshed. "Your score has been blocked." Those brief words popped up. The living room fell into dead silence for a solid 2 to 3 seconds. Then, "Holy crap, unbelievable. It's blocked. It's blocked." Richie Chen was the first to leap up, scattering potato chips everywhere, his chubby face flushed with excitement as he waved his fists and howled. The others snapped out of it instantly, their cheers and whistles nearly lifting the roof off. Having your results blocked meant you'd made it into the province's top tier. Admission to the top 2 universities was practically guaranteed. Almost immediately, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number from Beijing. I answered, and the voice on the other end was both enthusiastic and solemn. "Hello, is this Stella Song? This is the Tsinghua University admissions office." I could barely make out the rest of the words, my ears filled with my friends' excited screams and the chaotic chorus of congratulations. Sabrina Sue threw her arms around me, her beautiful eyes shining brilliantly, a smile she couldn't suppress curling her lips. "Way to go, Stella Song. This is amazing. Now I'll have bragging rights when you carry my bags. Who else has a Tsinghua University classmate as their bag carrier?" I looked around at every face, genuinely rejoicing for me, finally letting my gaze settle on Ryder Chen. Surprisingly, he wasn't joining in the commotion, just standing there with eyes terribly red, as if holding something back with great effort. When he noticed me looking at him, he abruptly turned his head away. quickly wiping his eyes with his sleeve. When he turned back, he'd regained that somewhat fierce expression, but his voice was slightly hoarse. "What are you looking at? You did okay." He paused, then added with extreme awkwardness, "Really good." In that moment, I knew all the hardships and grievances had been completely smoothed away by these people's most clumsy yet burning sincerity. A few years later, after graduating with my master's degree, I made a decision that surprised many. I returned to my hometown to become an ordinary village official. I saw everyone again at a class reunion. Sabrina Sue had just returned from studying arts management abroad, dressed in a sharply tailored high-end suit, her speech carrying new professionalism. But when she saw me, the brightness in her eyes and the slight lift of her chin remained that of the same willful yet soft-hearted young lady from years past. She immediately pinched my cheek. "TSK, after all the wind and sun in the village, your skin isn't as good as before. I just got a batch of luxury facial masks. I'll send you a box later." Ryder Chin hadn't changed much, still had that lazy demeanor, but there was something more settled in his brow. He's become a well-known local entrepreneur, working with eco-friendly materials, and I heard his business is quite large. He came over with a glass in hand, looking me up and down. "Not bad, cadre song. If there are any projects in the village, remember to prioritize our company. Let's bring benefits to our fellow villagers." His tone was teasing, but his eyes were serious. Richie Chien indeed followed in his father's footsteps, becoming the manager of their family's food factory. He's a bit heavier than before, with an even more honest smile. He pulled me aside, excitedly planning, "Star, our factory just launched a new line of healthy snacks using local agricultural products. Can you help us connect with the village? Wouldn't that be, what's it called? Industrial poverty alleviation?" The other classmates had all arrived too. Some had become teachers, some had opened small shops, some had joined government offices. We all gathered around noisily, exchanging updates with loud chatter and teasing each other as if the years we'd spent apart had never existed. As I looked at them, at these faces that had long shed their youthful innocence and found their places in society, I couldn't help but feel my eyes well up. They were all doing well, truly well, unlike what our teacher had predicted back then, that we'd rot in the mud. Each of them had found their own way to shine. "Heard you were trying to disturb our future top scorer studies." Remember how scary Wild Brother was back then, carrying that steel pipe? Nonsense. Those were hollow aluminum pipes. That time Xing Xing fainted from hunger scared me to death. Richie Chien, was your Tsinghua egg actually useful? Ha ha ha. Listening to their loud laughter and banter, I quietly lower my head, and the tears I'd been holding back finally fell, dropping into the wine glass in front of me. It's so good to see you all again. It's so good to see you all doing well. My greatest wish isn't some grand ambition, but simply that these people who protected my youth in their most awkward ways could live safe and happy lives forever. I hope the bond between us can last a lifetime, just like the warmth they unhesitatingly gave me that year.